This should work. We are live. Hi, everyone. Let's see if we get you back in here now in this window. Hello. Happy Friday, July 3rd, everyone. Let's just wait for a moment. Make sure everybody's back on here.
Happy Friday tea time.
Okay, there.
Okay.
Hi, Demetrius. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Blessings. We're going to wait to see everybody else too. Sorry about that. We don't know what just happened there, but it seems to be the energy of today and this 4th of July energy anyway. So let's see who's all joining us. I know Higher Heart was there, Matucci was there, a few others.
Christina was there.
Christina Paget was there, and a few others. Thank you so much. We're happy to see you on the live chat. It just doesn't feel right if you don't have the live chat, right? There's Dan. Hi, Dan. You found out you're so funny. Are you serious? Are you serious? You just had your light code transmission. Of course you're star being, like totally buzzing. Matucci, hi,
Good to
love.
see you, brother. We've been wanting to connect with you for a very long time.
We have to catch up, Matucci. So much love to you. Yeah, of course, Arcturian Dan, listen, the Arcturian energies connected us from years ago. So it's nothing surprise, but I'm glad you discovered it on your own. So much love. I love Matucci in the house. Matucci, is this been the biggest celebration, Michael, or what? From yesterday, getting that amazing announcement. We're going to go over that together today. So welcome, everyone. This is the first time we have all sacred men joining in just like that. Look at that.
Divine Sacred Master in the house,
Sacred,
I tell you.
Yeah.
I think it's been rolling from yesterday.
Yeah,
very
we
powerful.
need a lot of that. So much.
We hear that, Matucci. Much more to go.
There's so much to go. So much love, much love. Let's see how you are doing. What tea are you drinking? We just said that. Mine is a lot of this stomach energy.
Lemon, ginger.
Plain lemon ginger. Straight in that. So, where do we really begin?
It's been 3 weeks.
Hi, Tabitha.
Good to see you.
So
I will
much
get back
love,
to you
sister.
later today. Thank you for the beautiful message yesterday.
And Tabitha, speaking of sacred masculine, meet our sacred brother Michael Matucci, and definitely Dan and Demetrius, sacred masculine, so you can talk to them for sure as well. So let's see. First, can we just please welcome the month of Mary Magdalene. God bless this month is here. God bless. June is behind us. June put May behind. Thank Goddess. So here we are. Hi,
Higher Heart. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank Goddess that this month of Mary Magdalene is here. And maybe some of you got a chance to
Hi, Miriam. Good to see you.
Hi, Miriam John. We got to see, I had a chance to share on Wednesday about the power of this month, the Magdalene energy, the Magdalene voice, the Magdalene consciousness, the Magdalene power, because we do have the Magdalene feast coming up on the 22nd. That's a very powerful portal. And this month is all about the rise of the Magdalene voice, whether you're in a male incarnate, a female incarnate, a binary incarnate, non-binary incarnate, transgender, whatever, it doesn't matter. The Magdalene consciousness has been since 2012 coming into the planet, getting so core into the grids, the ley lines on Earth. There's a lot more that I communicated about this. It's on my YouTube channel at HoniB, which you can watch. It was just released on Wednesday. And it is such a pivotal time in this 2020, after this 6 months that we have passed beyond it, after the solstice, and we're in between these eclipses. And these eclipses preparing us for the 7/7 gateway. And speaking of which, Michael and I, together with our sacred sister Stella and her beloved partner John, and we are invited to be on Valerie's Valerie and Alan Steinfeld's gathering for the Mary Magdalene energy. So we welcome all of you to join. I put that on the Magdalene Sacred Divine Hearts page as well. But this energy here is all about the voice, because if you notice, let's just dive in yesterday's announcement with Harvey Weinstein's ex-girlfriend being arrested. Now, what's going to happen to her, it doesn't matter. But the key is Epstein. I'm sorry, what did I say?
Harvey Weinstein.
I'm sorry. It's all mumbo jumbo right now. But what is so key about it? Oh, I'm all over the place today. We'll talk about that too. But what's so important, finally, through all this separation that we've had these months regarding mask or no mask, regarding vid or no vid, I'm not even going to bring the other word behind it because they'll block our channel. So here we are in this place where finally the far left, the far righty can meet in the middle, because this arrest has taken place. There were numerous arrests have taken place, but this one is so significant because this is about the children. Everything is around the children on this Gaia. And the sex trafficking is a huge part of this stuff. And it ties so much to the Magdalene frequency. The voice of the Magdalene, to stand up behind the human trafficking, the sex trafficking, the sex slaving, that ties into the dark energy, that ties into the Draconian, the reptilian, that ties, quite a bit, ties into the politicians, ties into the movie industry, the celebrity, not all of them, but quite a bit. So what's interesting, this Magdalene frequency for years has been being anchored into the Earth's grid system, into the Christ consciousness grid system, to assist in its birthing of the crystal slide. And then for all these hidden dark to finally be surfaced, so that we can choose to voice and stand behind what we're no longer willing to tolerate, because it's been hidden, but now it's flat out before us, and we no longer are being manipulated and controlled by the media. So we're given the opportunity to stand behind it. This voice has to be spoken from the heart. Sorry, I'm starting right away because it ties in so much into this.
And I feel the beauty of that, what happened yesterday, is I feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg. I feel like there's going to be more things that are going to be revealed. And in that voicing, in that expression, it's going to be amazing to see how all this starts moving forward through the summertime into the fall, because like you said, it's not a lefty, it's not a righty. This is the truth. And I feel for such a long time, there's been this so-called conspiracy, or it's been kind of brushed under the table. And as we know, since the summer solstice and the energies that have been moving forward, everything is being revealed. There's nothing that can be hidden anymore. The voice has to be expressed, and that voice that's being expressed, light or dark, good or bad, it doesn't matter. It has to be brought forward, and no better of a time in the month of the Magdalene. And really to bring what we all have to do eventually is to bring the compassion, to bring the love, to bring the acceptance, and the biggest piece, the forgiveness. And I feel that's the piece that many of us are, really going to be there to help others, because it's going to create so much shock. It's going to create so much distortion, and people may choose not even to believe it because they want to hold tight in their limited beliefs. But the more we can really
attached beliefs get that ties into the identities. But it's beyond all of that. And the Magdalene voice is the voice of the liberation. It is through what we call the revelation. It's been talked about in Bible. It's been talked about in Islam. It's been talked about in Judaism. There's all the second coming. All the second coming, it is the coming of the crystal slide within, because once we tap in here, we are able to see all that's been hidden, that we too have taken part. We too have taken part in supporting, for example, from the politics, to the institutions, to the governments, to the athletes, to the fashion industry, to the music industry, to the celebrities, to all of these. We have energetically and through our purchasing power have supported this, which behind the scene is extremely dark with its power, the way it resources its power through the trafficking of the children and what takes place. So it's so beautiful that finally there is a revelation. But what is the revelation? What is really revelation? When something is revealed, right? That means it's seen. It's come from the hidden, from the hidden to the seen, from that in which has been closed, the light has been brought into it, right? So it's brought into the light. So this word we have as reverend, many of us go get our reverend license and whatever to do marriages and what have you. But underneath it, when it's revered, it means you are reverend by that in which been revered to you. And it's a revelation. That means it's transformed energy, it's transcended, it's ascended, it's brought to the light. So that means you can no longer have attachment to it. You cannot be tied to it because now it's here and now it has to be free. And that's why that symbol of dove represents the freedom, so you can fly.
And if you really look at the whole year of 2020, everything right now is coming up to be seen. We can't hide anything whatsoever. And it's interesting in how even in these dark times, even these dense periods, these energies are being brought forward, yet there's still an energy that's trying to disguise it, that's trying to manipulate, that's trying to hide it in every falsehood possible. And it really, what I feel through this energy, it takes that revelation to be seen with our inner vision, with our inner eye, to be realized within, because that truth within ourselves is the true revelation. We can't depend on anything outwardly, even when the news starts to come out.
Especially news and government,
and everything
right?
starts to move. It really takes one to sit within that silence, to sit within that feeling, and to really gather what that is, because that is the ultimate test. No matter what is happening, no matter how much intel's out there, what's the next full moon, what's the next eclipse going to do, they're all relevant in the grand matter. But in the bigger picture is, what is it within me? Because there's the planetary ascension, but there's also the individual ascension,
personal ascension.
And the personal ascension. And a lot of this that's coming up, which we're seeing the anger, we're seeing the division, what we've been talking a lot about, the light workers, seeing all this come out, but really within ourselves to see, how can I forgive what's creating my own anger? How can I go within myself to provide that greater level of that Magdalene compassion, that Magdalene softness, the gentleness, the nourishment, because that's really what is being called forth within all of us, because all these other energies, which are so relevant, I mean, we see it. It's like, it's claws, it's heavy, it's dense. So what's on the opposite side of that? The opposite side of is really surrendering to it. Not just surrendering to it, but
the opposite is liberation, Michael, right?
That is surrendering. When
you surrender, then you are liberated.
Right. And in that
it's the byproduct.
It's the byproduct, but in that surrendering, which is so powerful, is as we start to surrender to it, then we start to let go of it. It doesn't have that grip that has so much power over us. And when I say surrender, not giving our power to it. A lot of people have that old definition of surrendering means we lose or we're giving up something, but surrendering as in accepting, allowing, being present with it. And I feel that's one of the biggest pieces that's giving us that opportunity, because in that art of forgiveness and in that art of acceptance, it's giving that energy of surrender. And I find that even within what I spoke about yesterday in the masculine table is, what is surrender? How come we're holding on so much? And it's like funny when you look at what's happening out there. There's this fight and there's this war, good against evil, spiritual. I didn't come here to be peaceful. I came here to fight. And it's like, wait a minute. Like, let's step back in front of it and see where, we can't rip ourselves around this polarity. We have to really bring our Christed light, our Christed love, because that helps expand it even greater. And what we've noticed is, especially this past week, I don't know how you guys are feeling, but the densities have been like building. And I would love to hear how you guys
let's
are feeling.
Say hi to Angela. Yeah. Hi, Christina.
Hi,
so
Christina.
Much love to you. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you, Lori. And also, there was somebody else that joined. We haven't seen you. By the way, we missed you all. So thank you so much. Speaking, we do want to hear from you on this. I want to just bring this focus to the 7-7 alignment, because from the summer solstice, as this frequency, as we're coming from the winter solstice to summer solstice, there's this light that is expanding. So we have the highest amount of light in the daylight than in the northern hemisphere, shining upon us. And it's been so amazing, I feel, for Michael and I to be a witness from, of course, the dark, lives and projects and just operates from its dark. But what's been amazing for us to be just a witness of the light workers, star seeds, bringers of light, living from fear and acting from place of dark, and some horrendous dark behavior. We've seen within our own community. It's been shocking to see from all the insecurity, all the shadows that have come out, actually projecting from there. We've had, for example, somebody we know very well within the community that was a huge part of me and Michael's life. I mean, we love this woman so much, but trying to get people, bullying people while they're supporting us, going to other people's, almost harassing them to not support us. It's the strangest thing we've seen, and we kind of laughed about it and we gave love. But just 1 second, Michael, I want to talk about this. We've seen the ugliest and the ugliest of behavior from the light worker starseeds, and we have seen extreme light, extreme Christ light at the same time, and the dark wall is doing this thing. But all of it is so perfect, because each of us are incarnated with where we are on our vibrational scale, on our ascension journey, exactly where we are. The ones that have to be in the street and protest, they are. The ones that have to hold the light, they are. The ones that have to go take part in the new law changes that have to be made, they are. We're exactly where we are. So there's no cookie cutter way or what we need to do. But there is one thing in common amongst all the light workers, all the star seeds, all the bringers of light, all the beacons, all the way shores. And that is just one, to live and operate from the love. But often that can't be fully brought forth because the shadows are first coming out to be cleared. And nothing like 2020 kicking it into gear, right? And then you can go to forgiveness and all of that.
And what I appreciate, honey, what you said is looking at those shadows, accepting those shadows, and really seeing where they're operating from our lower 3 chakras.
Definitely.
And really stepping back and seeing, where do I feel grounded? How safe? How secure? Where's my confidence and power? Because all these energies, if we just really look at what the energy is happening out there and how it's pulling each of those universal forces within us, and then stepping back and really just not judging, not being too hard on yourself, but really acknowledging yourself as saying, how grounded am I in this moment? How much am I depending my acceptance, my validation, my authority on the outside versus what's happening within myself? How safe and secure am I feeling within, and not giving my power away to the falsehood of what's being broadcast out there? And how much can we accept this darkness? Because one thing that I've really seen is the amount of light we can bring to that darkness. And not only bring to that darkness, but be in a position which is true mastery.
It is.
To embrace that darkness with our light and not be affected where it kicks us out, because all of us on this call and all of us that are listening daily, minute by minute, are being placed in positions. And we have one simple choice. How am I going to accept this? Am I going to reject it? Am I going to accept it? Am I going to come from love? Am I going to come from fear?
I feel the word acceptance, Michael, is probably not the right frequency.
Allow.
I feel it's facing it. You're really meeting it, right? Because I'm not going to accept that behavior but I'm meeting it to have an encounter,
but
right?
But what I mean by
like,
that,
I feel you're saying meeting it,
well,
right?
I say accept it, not that I'm giving permission to say I'm accepting it. I'm saying within
Use an example, Michael. Use an example so that we have total clarity.
Okay.
Because Magdalene Voice is about clarity, not all over here.
When I say acceptance, I'm not accepting one's behavior on child
Use an
trafficking.
example. Okay.
So yesterday, the reports came out, and this woman was arrested.
Yes.
Now, of course, we don't accept that behavior right there. We don't. We look at it, but we're also accepting that energy is out there. We're accepting that we're drawing that level is like we're realizing, because sometimes what happens is I feel like when we resist it and we're fighting against it, it's drawing a level. When I say acceptance, it's not like I'm going to say, okay, I accept you. It's like we have to accept everything. When I say accept, allow, bring it forward.
I just want to understand what you're saying from, let's say, the example yesterday. So you're saying that, okay, this is taking place. It just is, right? It just is.
It's taking place.
You're not accepting the behavior, but it just is, right?
Universally,
so then to do something with
honey,
it.
none of us want to see pain,
of course
and
not.
want to see all the.
Of course not.
What I'm saying is, when these situations happen, it can create a lot of pain within us.
No, absolutely.
It can create a lot of sadness within us. It can create a lot of resistance with us. And what we have to do is accept that energy within us.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So
That's
we
what I'm
have to get clear.
Yeah. So accepting
when,
the emotions. What I'm saying is, the emotions that are being stirred, the triggers that are being stirred.
So when so I feel like I'm the translator for Michael, because if I can't, like, if it's here, I can't grasp what you're saying. So when an encounter happens, right? An encounter happens. Like yesterday, we've known about this, but here's an actual arrest, right? And then you as an individual are experiencing certain energies in motion with you. So this is you're speaking the individually to accept what you are facing, so that you can then have a communication with it. So then from there, then you have the choice and the power to transcend it, to voice it, to communicate it, so that it can, that energy can go into motion and transcend. So because what I was hearing you is accept that doesn't. See, that's where clear Magdalene Voice, clear communication, right?
So what I'm expressing is this. That is just one example. Every single thing that we've been dealing with what's happening, we don't want to give terms to it, but every single thing that's happening, there's an energy that is being triggered within us. And that energy, a lot of times, we push it down, or we allow, or we push it away through certain elements, maybe being too busy, or not acknowledging it, or just frankly ignoring it because we want to focus on something else by staying in the light range. But what I'm saying is accepting every single thing that comes through in the response of it. And even seeing it on a deeper level, like, what is that teaching me? How is that allowing me, again, to come back to the Magdalene Voice, the compassion, the love, the forgiveness, and the ability to see what that force is really doing. Like, it's a step back further and further, saying, what are these forces really trying to do? Separate us, create more anger, create more fear, create more insecurity, and really to create instability, because if there's a larger divide, then there's greater separation. So that's where I'm saying accepting from within.
No, so that's that keyword I feel is important.
None of us are accepting the behavior, because from our own beacons of life, we know universally that's not what we came here to do. We came here to be that light. And what my point in the beginning was is really to see how we can look at our actions, look at our thoughts, look at our choices, and really embrace the highest frequency of light when we encounter this. Because, we've spoken about this in the past, as many as want to go to the mountains or go into their caves or like hide from it all and be in the kumbaya, we have to embrace it. We have to meet it. And that's the real mastery, is when we do meet it, how much effect does it have in our response? Because we can have the reaction, we can have the shit flip, or we can go berserk. But then the real test is, where am I on my ascension to see that power within that has effect on you.
And as I spoke about it also on Wednesday, I feel it's very important. You are going to, sometimes have wonderful responses. So there's no triggers and what have you. And then you're going to have times where, yes, it is triggered. So that's when you go back to the drawing board. I love, Demetrius, you always ask, when is this going to end? It ain't going to end, not in this incarnation, because it's evolving and evolving and evolving. And it's a process that is continuum, because we're getting deeper and deeper and expanding higher and higher. And so there's more light quotients within us in our cellular structure. And within this cellular structure, especially the diamond codes are expanding even more. The diamond codes give us that diamond clarity. Dan, you spoke of 2020 vision. It is from the heart. You can see from the divine feminine lens very clearly. And if you're trying to see it from just this mental construct, it's so limited, it's narrow, and you can't grasp it all. It has to be wide like an ocean to be able to see it. Also from that wingspan of the ego. So like really, you gotta really rise up to be able to access it. And the other part that I want to share is, so on a personal note, this has been a huge part with us. As you know, we've been in this 2.5 months of looking for home, and the process of meeting real estate agent, going through this, a lot of this closing, still being able to have appointments to go see the homes, many different experiences, and the realtor, the broker, and for us to be starting out a little bit more like this, timid in terms of, because we're outside system, how do we communicate this properly? How do we communicate? We don't have the 1099s or the W-2s, and we have co-signers. And how do we go through this, where we ourselves have had to, in this, when we're meeting this third dimensional consciousness, to bring our own light to it. And that has been certainly the journey with these last 3 experience of putting application and meeting that and going through the process, though we were not accepted by the homeowners. Interestingly, not because we weren't capable, not because we weren't financially able, but because they wanted longer term, like
or
3-year term.
The check requirement of what they were looking for.
No. All of them were. They wanted, the first 2 wanted a 3-year term, and this one was slightly different. It was a third party that was what needed to verify our residence. That took a little while, but along this journey, me and Michael have had to come out of we're very open in this platform with our groups and all of that in our spiritual community. But when we meet the third dimensional construct, how can we really be completely ourselves, that we are spiritual teachers, we are ascension leaders, we are mediums, we work with angels. So go from one end of the spectrum to like this last house that this past week, we were not, our application was not accepted, yet the victory, as we got on the live stream right away talked about, was truly that we got to be ourselves in this third dimensional tightness, who we really are. So from our own hidden place that we showed up so boldly in the front. And that has been an amazing also journey for us. And the voice of the Magdalene again, right? Coming up, not backing out, even like to the third party verification. The guy asking, you don't have this tax number? I'm like, no, we have the co-signers have that very clearly.
You know what the paradox?
I have to say we received love gift offering.
And the paradox of it all is this sense of illusion of not being accepted or quote unquote being rejected. The gift that I feel all of us are going through is, as we rise in the fullness of expression of who we are, the divinity of our, and as we accept us individually, planetary, for who we are, then it doesn't matter who does not accept you, because you know who you are. And I feel what the gift has been in this for us is we've been able to speak our full truth, give everything that we can possibly do, even if it may have caused some people to be like, I don't understand it. It's given us the ability to say, wow, we can come out in this 3D reality, cutthroat, sometimes very egoic, judgmental ways of like eyeing you of like, okay, who's the best candidate during the most busiest, highest moment. And for all those in the DC, Maryland area, which we're learning, everyone's moving here for some reason. Everyone wants to come to the DC metropolitan area. That in our non-acceptance of it, we're actually expanding higher in our own acceptance. And I find that is the voice of the Magdalene, because we are sharing what we haven't shared before. Because in some aspects, in the vulnerability, which I feel is the truth of the heart, that vulnerability, sometimes it's hard to express what we're doing because people flat out don't understand. And sometimes people judge you for not being qualified because we're not in a box. We're not in a specific structure that, as we always joke around, like we're these stars being tried to fit into this square box. And sometimes we tippy-toe because it's like, well, you know, we have love gift offerings. They're not tax forms or W-2s. We don't have these because employer numbers. We don't have this yet. There's that risk where people are like, okay, we got to put something down. Like, we're not going to put anything down. We're going to put not applicable, but we're finding that comfort and we're finding that pure acceptance within us. And we can share this because why hold back what we do? We're in the divine. We're in the divine light. If we're holding back to ourselves and we're holding back to what's being brought forth.
No, Michael, let's correct that. No, you and I don't hold back at all.
When I say hold back, by not revealing the fullness of our truth, because in an environment that's opposing, right? But before
it's
this,
interesting,
before this, when it came around taxes, when it came around this, there was a little discomfort around it in both of us. Because
absolutely. How do we
communicate that to others
so
that
it's
judge
acceptable within this construct, right?
And so it's interesting, the more that we can express what we are in our own acceptance, that is our own truth. And I feel like when we stand in our own truth, then we are the highest, fullest, divine sources of light, because there's nothing that's holding us back, because we're revealing it.
So again, I feel like what Michael says, there are a couple of things I have to get it more in this communication, because there is really not much of an art when we can share, this is who we are with you all. Right up front, with a lot of our gatherings we have continuously, our ceremonies, it's so open and free, no problem. And we fully are in acceptance of who we are and that which we're in service to and what have you. The art becomes when you bring this consciousness to an area that's so restricted, that is so limited in its awareness, in its consciousness, in its presence. And that's where you are staying in that center and in your revelation communicating that. And then have it be a transaction. That is truly art. So point being, many of us are being put in this position. One of the things I learned, how many of us are having asked to move around, move. So we have to meet these real estate activity things, rentals or buying or purchasing, what have you. And but what happens is also that's anchoring, that's literally anchoring, right? And in the lower three chakras, as I spoke on Wednesday, this streamlight has to come in through those lower three chakras to be anchored, so grounded, so deep. And we have to meet these frequencies that are contracted and expanded. In our experience, we happen to establish a beautiful relationship with the different real estate agent that we saw, and we just happened to show up in the right place in their life because they already were open, and that really assists their openness. So it's very much our gifts are being so brought into the third dimensional consciousness because it is the great awakening. And there's so much more demand for light workers, their service, their healing work, their shamanic work, the galactic, the light language and transmissions and activation work, because the collective there's been a blast due to this closing for a while. People have been able to finally be with themselves, finally discover what is really, they're not running around stressed. They can finally discover what's happening to be able to raise that vibration. So here, those of us who've been living from 5D are finally meeting the 3D, and it's been like this, and we're finally coming in this place, which is so beautiful, so liberating. And this is the half year, and then we're about to go meet so much more of the dark these next few months. Then you're just gonna go like this. So
and isn't it funny?
It's so funny, but we should also find out how is everybody.
Funny, real quick, how many people are moving? I know, Michael, you said you're moving. You know, I got a message last night from one of our dear friends, Megan's moving.
So
all these people are moving, and I feel like, you know, it's like life is pushing us right now to expand and to move our light into new directions.
But our seed has to go to other places, because we've set the grid. Now it's another one.
And it's almost like that, like dictation of light. It's like you can't stay in your comfort zone. You have to keep moving. You have to keep expanding. And right now, it's the biggest comedy, because in the art of all of this, it's allowing that emotional body, that mental body, to really stay in alignment so that the physical body can stay strong and handle what's moving through. Because even today, when you woke up with the belly and really seeing how emotionally and mental is so connected to all these all these energies that are coming forward, and to really step back and saying, okay, we can move into this, we can do this. But it's, again, coming back to that alignment within ourselves and really being present, really being aware. And I feel it's a gift, because in this, we've had the nature, Demetrius, to go into nature and to anchor and ground that, where we constantly say, gosh, this is our reality. This is what we feel, the trueness of our wisdom. I know many of you, when you feel that, you get out into real life and you're like, this is the channel I want to watch every single day, because this what feels right. The rest of it right now has just been it's been a full-on show, and it's just been
speaking
amazing.
of, isn't it interesting also? Let's just go back for a second to this real estate. So real estate market, where real estate, right? It's homes, it's grounding, right? Grounding energy, like literally settling. Then there's the other part of it, it ties into the banking system, right? So then the banking system ties to where, the money has to come, the loans and what have you, to be able to get the home, or whether it's rental and what have you. So this 2020, where so many light workers, starseeds, have been feeling the call, they got to move their location to reseed it. But it's also part of our light coming into this interaction with this real estate frequency, because it ties to the monetary system. We're all bringing our light to these areas to create this trickling effect, right? We happen to be bold enough in the last one to say, listen, we receive gift offering. They've been blessed. So this money has to come to a home that's blessed. I feel that's amazing that we can actually say that and stand behind it. Again, it's the voice of the Magdalene. Is the voice of the Magdalene able to speak with its crystalline diamond clarity? There's no unclear space here. In its full expression. And also, is it able to stand tall in its light of love, to communicate what is its higher purpose in this now? And so this ties into what's happening collectively too, because so many of us, if you see on Facebook, we are standing bold, speaking the truth about, this is how I feel about whether I'm wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, vaccine or non-vaccine, lefty or righty, anonymous or Q. And you know what's
interesting when you really go back to the depth of real estate? Isn't it funny when we look at our sovereign being, nature, and earth being our home?
Yeah.
And really looking at land, that we have to put a monetary figure on a piece of land to buy to rent, when our whole soul is free and liberated in its beingness. And here we are having to really, like, it's almost like a sacrifice. Like I have to put my name on a lease to create ownership for an apartment.
In a binding contract.
In a contract. And you're like, wait a minute, isn't the earth free? Isn't the ocean, isn't the land, aren't the mountains here for us to enjoy? Yet somewhere in our system, it's been hijacked that we have to find a job, to make a money, to get a tax form, to prove that we're actually eligible.
But that's the old program, right? Isn't it? Isn't the old program that we're dissolving, but yet we're still in it?
Right.
Right?
And it's like, and it's even like with these bodies, like this body, we're renting, we're borrowing, more to say. In this short, beautiful journey through life, this is not ours. This is just a vessel.
Just temporary.
Just like the land here is a beautiful temporary place where our soul can have this dance on life. Yet sometimes we like laugh at it because it's like, gosh, why does it have to be such a struggle to really have to go through these situations when we understand at the end that struggle is to bring more light, to expand it, to bring more love.
So I'm going to have you, Michael, because we have we have missed you all. Thank you so much. So we can just go through some of the comments here, Michael, if you like. And let me grab the other things.
Sure. So thank you, beings, and thank you for sharing. Obviously, we do read this and take your comments in, and would love to hear how you're doing, what's coming forward, and knowing that we're just blessed that you guys have joined. It's been a little pause in our weeks because of just the circumstances that have come across our plate. But
so can you read?
So I will read some. The 7 Gateways almost upon us. Super awesome. Yes, we feel it's all happening. Thank you, Tabitha. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Thank you, Demetrius, for always being your highest level of support. L'Oreal said, hello. So family, to be here, to express, engage, and active, supercharge, and align. Beautiful. Shine the light and awareness. Thank you. 2020 vision. Absolutely. We see it, Dan. Thank you, James. So happy to be here. It is a good start for sure, but a lot to be done. I absolutely agree, Miriam. There's so much to be brought forward.
So much.
God's eyes, the Holy Trinity, science, politics, and religion.
Yeah.
It's
Christina.
You can only imagine itself right there.
Yeah.
What else? Oh God, headaches, nausea, fatigue. You can name it. Yes, it's
last week particularly on Thursday was Wednesday was extremely heavy with nausea, and Thursday.
You know what's interesting, and it's
3 days I had it.
What's interesting, as much as we don't watch media, and as much as we don't pay attention, it's almost a great gauge to see when there's certain elements that come up in our dizziness, our nausea, just to almost look at the headlines to see what's being projected out there. Because a lot of times when these energies, these portals, these gateways happen, it's powerful to see the news that comes in that really shakes and rattles people. And that usually is indicative of the powerful frequencies, because there's much light that's coming in to be anchored in these light codes that are here for us to accept, and we're here to expand, grow, and evolve in our frequencies. There comes this story, this headline, these news, these updates that shake us. And it's almost like instead of personalizing and saying, oh my gosh, something's happening with me, just to get a quick scan, even though we do laugh a lot of times when it says incoming frequencies, we know it's been happening our whole life. So it's in one aspect, nothing new, but also just to kind of be alert of that. So Angela, yes, sending the same here as well, especially in our light working community. Any leaders get attacked, light workers, presidents, Tabitha.
Nothing new.
I feel like a lot of times what we're aware of is when there's vulnerabilities, or we just say holes in our auras. I don't know if it's necessarily saying attacked. I would just say things come into strength. But sometimes
there is actual
there's
attack too.
But if you can look at it in a way, it comes in so that you can strengthen it to kick it back out, because there is that energy of it coming in, but of so-called attack, which we can say that, but at the same time, I feel it gives us the opportunity to look at what areas are our vulnerabilities and how we can strengthen it so that it doesn't have that pull over us.
If you feel attacked, then it will be that. Right.
Higher heart, absolutely wonderful to be holding the rose frequency to expand and transmit unconditional love, higher energies. Higher heart, I really feel the true mastery of life, and I always say this in my morning prayer, is to hold that unconditional love. And I find the gift is, look at the most difficult thing you can possibly imagine, the one thing that creates the most hurt, the most hatred,
You
and the
should
most
talk
resistance.
about this right now. I feel you're very appropriate to talk about this right now, Michael.
That unconditional love can be the highest, because I know that literally it was a week from today that I was so honored with my beloved to have the support, but for my recent grandmother that passed away, and really last week, and really gave me the gift to look at someone that I held a deep love for. The relationship was really dissolved in the past 6 years with not being allowed to see her, with her choosing to alienate from the whole family, and even worse, to choose that she wasn't even going to acknowledge her grandchildren, her children in her will, and just kind of wrote off everyone. And to be in a state, which I find, to walk into a space after my mom was dangling the carrot of like, oh, I think your grandmother may have left something for you, and then to retract that right before I visited her, and walk into a space, into a room, that it brought the biggest joy and happiness to be in that state of unconditional love in a woman that had so much hatred, had so much density, had so much pain, bitterness. Yeah. And what I've been telling Honey, to imagine that was only 2 generations away from me, and sit with complete love and hold her hands to help her cross by giving absolute forgiveness, compassion, and gratitude for all the good things that happened within her life, versus all the list of negative things that could have been a mile longer.
I don't think that moment was forgiveness. You just showed up with love. And forgiveness is later.
Well, no,
wouldn't you say?
Well, I showed
because
up.
That moment you just went, because you hadn't seen her for 6 years. She had flat out denied you, and she wouldn't see you even before that. So here you go at the last, on her deathbed, the last few minutes, here you come, but you just you put everything aside. You show up with love. I don't think you consciously like, well, I'm going to forgive her right now as I'm holding the hand.
At the very end.
At the last
at
second.
At the very end, because I felt like what we did with my dad was, which I find is very important for all of us, and I've been wanting to share this, is the importance of knowing that when a soul transitions, it's such importance in those last days, weeks, and months to really communicate while we're having this earth experience, because we came forth to have these contracts. Whatever was accomplished was great. Whatever's not is going to go to the next life.
Yeah.
When we can communicate from our hearts, it doesn't have to be verbal. It can be intuitive. We are clearing so many of these old energies, especially ancestral energy, of the old greed, the pain, the limitations, the areas that some of us, we don't even have a word to describe it other than shit. Just complete shit, because we just can't fathom that people can be in such a place of
But
hatred.
just like a generation before, right? Or two generations
of just such absolute pain. And I can't blame her, because she had the family, she had the midlife crisis of losing her beloved husband, and she chose this way. Yet to come into a room and bless that opportunity just by holding love. And by holding that love, the phenomenal experience was to see her receive it, because when the nurse came in to check on us, which I had to be 6 feet away, her hands were so wrapped around my fingers that I had to actually peel her fingers off to step back to show the nurse I'm trying to honor the 6 foot separation. Here in that moment, my mother and I were giving that opportunity, especially my mother, who was never appreciated by her mother, my grandmother, to sit and just offer our gratitude, leading my mom and saying, okay, what are we grateful for? And expressing to her. And when we said that gratitude, how we saw little smiles in her face or little shivers. Even when I placed my hands above her heart and top chakra to send light, I could feel the energy that was opening the portal in that moment for her soul to pass literally hours later into that night, and to stand in that unconditional love. The very last thing I did was, when I was holding it, I went through, I forgive you, grandmother. You can let go.
I didn't hear that. You didn't tell me that.
You can leave because that was my level. Well, I didn't tell you that because it's funny when you're in that short light period of time and you're feeling on top of the world. As soon as I left, what happens when you shine all this light? It's going to reveal all that density and darkness that's been hidden for so long. And so that short glimpse was just the most amazing feeling. But then afterwards, as Honey knew later, I was going through anger. I was going through sadness. I was going through so much energy because of just this.
That's why Michael hasn't been on, because he's been dealing with so much emotion this past week. And
what was interesting to face on an individual level, which I feel many of us can feel. On an individual level, what did my grandmother teach me? How to forgive inequality, injustice. That treating someone just with the rawness of just hatred, and to transmute that with love, and to be that in love. And it takes time because you have to wash all those, and most important, feel those emotions, embrace those emotions, and be thankful. And so I feel like the forgiveness part, I remember holding. I didn't get to express that because right after the forgiveness part, I was walking out the room being like, wow, I only had 30 minutes, which ironically enough, it was 3:33 when we left the room. And my mom's like, wow, funny how I had 2 hours yesterday. We only had 30 minutes today. And that 30 minutes flew by. And I sat there and of course, that anger was like, why could I hold longer? I want to go back and hold her hands, because to sit and hold any being that's 100 years old is one thing. But then to hold one's hands that there's been lifetimes of memories, and to embrace that in a life that I didn't feel I was as close to as many of my relatives, and really transmute that with love and unconditional grace and compassion. I mean, it's a journey that I feel is the highest blessing we could all ask for. And I feel in this time period, we're being called upon to raise that frequency and to move into those darkest nights and really provide our unconditional love, so that at the end we can see the revelation that's happening before us. And so I thank you, Honey, for sharing that, because for me, it's, death brings up everything. And I'm still going through it. And there's days where I'm like feeling awesome. And then there's other days like, why am I feeling so heavy? Where is that? And I'm like, oh, because there's all this level where she didn't accept me for not getting a bar mitzvah. My father, because he didn't become a lawyer and became the breadwinner. Like, all these energies started to pile up. And I feel within all of us.
It was a kick-ass week because we also applied for the application of the home, and then we had to face that. I feel like we just went through so much.
Because we spoke about the application, and Honey goes, isn't it the same thing your grandmother felt? And then I'd like to ask all of you guys, have you noticed what's been happening where that feeling of disappointment, that feeling of inequality, that feeling of lack of justice, that feeling where that's coming up, and it's almost like we want to express it, but there's so much happening out there. What way are we able to, and most important, do we have that space and that support around us? I'm so blessed and grateful that, my beloved said, go ahead and express it, say it, like, get it out of your system, because sometimes many of us that are in our hearts, like, well, I don't want to say anything bad because she just passed away. The post that I wrote, I know I sent a lot of love and I wanted to give her the highest honor, but I was like, I don't know how much I can really say forward because, I was judging my own self. It was funny how my own judgment was like, what can I say and reveal, because it needs to be expressed.
And I feel that was very important. I said, Michael, listen, you can't hide this. Like, you can't sugarcoat it. You have to say, at least to me, say what you want to say. Say it all. Say it, its depth of ugliness. Say it, because that heaviness can no longer be with us inside any of us. It needs to be expressed and out, not projected, but expressed. A safe, listening heart that can just hear it.
And what I love about what Honey shared about her ancestry, especially in the Persian culture, I can relate very much in the Jewish culture, is there's this theme that we all have to look good, and we can't say anything bad about others or what's happening within ourselves. Not bad, but the dirt.
You can't tell the dirt.
You can't tell the dirt, or really the truth underneath, because somewhere, if we expose that, it's like, no. You can only speak good about it. Yeah. You can only share the best of it. And there's so many times in life that we want to share everything, but we hold back because we're like, how are people gonna accept us? How are people gonna respond? If I say, well, I really love this person, but really, can I tell you what she really did to me? Can I give you the circumstances, which personally for me, in the sadness, the last 2 times I remember seeing my grandmother, because her energy of dementia started to shift in the last 10 years, she literally couldn't hold the space for my energy because it was too overwhelming for her. So the last memory I had of her speaking to her, she's like, no, I can't see you. And that was the day before that she kicked me out of her room because I was too happy. I was too excited to see her. She's like, I can't see you right now. Your energy is too strong. Get out. And she literally kicked me out of the room. For me to go back to those moments and be like, it's okay for me to feel that. It's okay to feel the pain and the hurt of like, oh my gosh, like this is the grandmother that I remember spending the nights and, doing the gardening and sharing all the beautiful ceremonies in our religion, which we didn't really hold to the level that she did, but it was that ability to recognize, to accept within myself, and to really give the permission to really allow it to let go. And that to me was the biggest gift that I'm still going through in forgiveness, which on one end was so powerful on her, but then to go and forgive myself in my own judgment, because usually when we see people in such pain and such hurt, what is the Magdalene Voice here to do? To bring even more compassion and more love, because somewhere in their journey, they didn't receive the love. They didn't receive the compassion. And when we can stand in our light and say, wow, am I able to receive the compassion and love for myself? And can I hold that frequency and vibration for others that have no idea of what that is?
Yeah.
And the challenge, if not test, is the mastery of the closest people in our lives that have created that out of their unconsciousness or out of their own lack of awareness because they don't know any better. And we still have to stand tall in that frequency and just be that essence without telling them, without commanding them, without saying, don't you know, because there's this invisible expression of just being it. And I feel that is the trueness of when we can hold that Magdalene frequency, is walking into a space and just radiating it, but not even speaking it, because we don't have to speak it. We already know that we are it. The truth of the matter is not to try to prove it or have to like explain it, but just allow that, because that's the light that we're here to shine. So thank you for allowing me to speak upon that, because
I wanted you to speak on
it's
it.
been, and I know there's more speaking of it, and there's a lot more that's coming out. And I just feel that with all of us, we're all going to meet death, which we find as a celebration. And we also know it's a transition. Some cultures, they think it's the door shut, it's a black void. Others, we know it's just a transitional phase. And in that, to accept everything and every emotion that comes out, and to give love and light to that, so that we can really be leaders to share that with others, to really give that permission to say it's okay to go through all the muck of it all, because it can get downright and dirty, especially when it comes to money, when it comes to wills. We call it blood money because we know the money is coming from dark places. And then to even go deeper and say, oh, there's the old wounds of abandonment. There's the old wounds of betrayal. There's the old wounds of rejection. And what's happening? She's giving me the gift to go back to those wounds through these triggers, to realize there has never been a rejection, because when we're connected to the divine and we understand how much the divinity accepts us for who we are, then rejection is an illusion. When we feel that disappointment, and we know that the angels and the masters, they're never disappointed in what we do right or wrong, because they hold us with that divine light. I feel like all of these beautiful lessons and gifts are really for us to transmute and to really provide the light, so those words don't have that energy that pulls us, because we've all come in to transmute and transform that. And
I feel this has to, again, this talk, we're at this age where, there are elders crossing over, and there's this around will, trust, and what have you. And how many families we know that have been completely destroyed because of the will, because they didn't talk about it clearly and what have you, and whatever took place out of that.
And I found unfair circumstances.
Yeah, and I find it very interesting where again, we can talk about light codes, we can talk about this thing, but the real things we're right here that we need to discuss and be honest and upfront with each other. And I feel the other part of it that's very important is each of us light workers, we are sometimes, more focused, for example, which you have to, you still, especially if you have a parent, I'm a parent, what is in my will, what do I have to be able to take care of my children when I cross over? Of course divine takes care of them, of course the ascended masters and the angels do, but for me as a personal responsibility for my offspring. And so it's kind of interesting, and many cultures such as my culture likes to kind of like not even talk about it because it's so scary for them. And there's some cultures that are much more open. Regardless of that, I feel us as light workers, us as starseeds, us as bringers of light, it's very important to tune into the divine inheritance, to the divine father inheritance, to the divine mother inheritance. To me, that's the true inheritance. That's the one that I am like surrendering to receive as my real parents, as my higher parents in this incarnation, in this form, to allow it to come through my mighty I am presence. So that's the true gift in the presence. That's why our sacred Sunday spiritual circle that we've been having 2 years, everything is around the presence of the I am, in the I am presence. That is to us the real gift. The real gift is from that. And this energy of the divine inheritance is very important because I find it is not quite in the consciousness of the light workers or the starseeds. And it's same as it's been for me. It's more new for me to open up myself so that I can serve even greater the great goods that I am bringing from the heavenly realm into earth, into these tight areas, so I can expand it and serve from there. Serve for me, serve for our union, serve for my children, serve for my family, serve for all. There's no limitation from here. And that's what's opening up. That's a very different consciousness. It is a true different consciousness. So let's go back here, Michael. Read.
Sure. So,
hi, Cynthia.
Cynthia, thank you, Cynthia. What a beautiful transition for your grandmother as you speak. I can see you've experienced a true miracle. You know what, Cynthia?
Yeah.
You know what the biggest miracle was? The biggest miracle was no matter who she chose, one being, to leave everything with, which wasn't in my immediate family, the biggest gift that I received, which was beyond any inheritance, was the priceless feeling that in our contract, I was able, with my mother, to hold that energy in a portal to give her the strength to ascend where she needed to go.
To cross over.
To cross, because
I said, Michael, you stood at heavenly gate. You were right at the gatekeeper so she could cross. Like, oh,
and to feel the angels and to feel the masters, and I could feel my grandparents, my real grandfather I never met when he passed. My mom was 8, and my step grandfather, and just to feel how crowded that room was in that moment was beyond any inheritance that she could have given me. And just to hold that's little moment that I had with her, which was so grand, that's what gave me. Because the funny thing, when I kept saying the honey was, and maybe it's just my weird nature of the connection of divine, I just want to hold. When my dad was transcending 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, in July 28th, I just want to hold his hands. I want to be there in that last moment to give that final blessing. And she was like, you were there.
It was so interesting. So 2 years ago, Michael kept the biggest sadness in him was like,
I wasn't at home.
I just want to, no, before that, he's like, I just want to be able to hold his hand. I want to be able to hold his hand. So I said him that, I was like, listen, who do you think you are? You can put that request in the universe. Your father chose with Mighty Almighty, his agreement, how he's going to cross. Definitely put that order in, but back off, because your father has his own agreement. And how funny, his father and his grandmother hated Michael's father. Like,
never accepted it.
No, it was so bad. I said, wow. I said, Michael, your dad's been waiting like this at Heaven's Gate. Come on, lady, come on. and it's so funny. And I said, and of all the people, you get to hold the hand of one that really didn't deserve it at all, and never hold your hand, and did not accept you. But look at that agreement. That's why I told you, you cannot, you can go ahead and put your request in, but there's a whole other soul agreement. And that's the divine perfection in what seems imperfect, right? Because if you can see it from one lens, okay, this was so screwed up, flower that, yet you can come to a higher lens, the heart, and be like, wow, just, you're speechless of its awe and the wondrous perfection, truly.
Yeah, it gave me the opportunity. I mean, obviously, when I posted it, it looks like she transcended
just a few hours
several hours afterwards. And obviously, my ultimate wish is to hold the hands exactly when it happens, but that may be with my mother or any other being. That it is, you know, Honey's brother said one of the most powerful things. It's like, the biggest blessing we can be is to serve. And imagine those moments of service that we all know. Imagine those moments that are in the most powerful, incredible, sensitive, vulnerable moments that we have with our beings. And for them, what I find the biggest miracle of life is their incarnation and their ascension. And to hold those moments and to savor those moments is the gift. So thank you, Cynthia. It was such a powerful level that it allowed me to just feel that heaven's gate. And that heaven's gate, to me, I want to share with each and every one of you, is there for all of us to embrace the angels, to embrace the masters, to embrace how much they're there to support us, and in these moments to really thank them where we're guided. Because the day before, we were almost imagining going to go to Long Island because we were just so tired of this whole process. And I kept saying, no, honey, let's just, I feel the need. Like my spirits kept saying, you have to go see your grandmother.
But it's so interesting. Let's also share this. So one of the things that morning of, before they went to see Michael's grandmother and Michael's mom, I was on the phone with Michael's mom, and I was like, Susan, listen, you've got to call in Archangel Azrael. She's like, which one is that? So I was like telling, and I was reminding Michael, I was like, Michael, call the man, you know. And for me, it's so beautiful. The angels show up and they're waiting at the gate, you know. So when the soul crosses over, like I just look at a whole separately. And of course, at the funeral, I wore white with my feathers celebration. I mean, completely no mask. I was like, you know, I represent the angelic realm. Like, it's so beautiful. Like, I can't even. It's so magnificent. Like, let somebody, because I've come from the other side, let me represent the beauty that is here. But it was so cute talking to Michael's mom, Susan. She's like, I'm going to call him in. I'm going to call him in strongly because she's been so ready. Well, she's been the primary caretaker for the last 6 years. So interesting, love, that frequency that Michael had met, because the next day we found this house, and the real estate agent dealing with this house could not have been more cold, more like this, more, I mean, no warmth whatsoever. And it was so interesting, even the way they dealt with it to even answer us. So and it was a week. So it was the same time Michael's grandmother transitioned to her funeral, and a few days after, I said to Michael, Michael, isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing with your grandmother's transition? Those energies of cold and like this, it was exactly also that energy with the home application, with that. Isn't it so incredible? Like, there's nothing outside of the realm of divine perfection, but when we're in it, sometimes because we're being pulled in this muddy water, we can't experience the full perfection because we're only experiencing the imperfection. And I want to take that consciousness, one second, Michael, don't come to it, then take that consciousness in where we are right now. If I were to share to you, we're in the most divine perfection right now. All of you would want to jump across the screen, punch me, and like go on a wrestling match with me, because you won't even even my inner teenager would be like, what? What did you just say? Or my inner child, my adult would want to comment, like going to wrestling match with you. What did you just say? Look at this chaos. How can you even say such a thing? It's absolute insanity. Look, they're about to have another shutdown. Shit's about to hit the fan. The presidents, who will we choose? Like, all this chaotic, right? Yet, I can really feel like all the goods that's just about to land here. And for me, yesterday, a few other ones like Ellen's show being canceled, Oprah's show being canceled, all these, they're not really being spoken about. Oh yeah, all the good is happening. Why? Because it's so deep. That's finally, because of our light, because of our anchor, because with all this planetary work, finally all these are coming out. The dirt we're seeing. But if you tune in, wow, to the numbers of us that are holding the site, and especially we just finished 30 weeks of every Tuesday night anchoring light. So many of us have been, so many of you here, especially Lori and also Tabitha, you've been joining us week after week with your divine presence. Like, we are seeing what we're anchoring.
It's so powerful that in this transition that I notice how much we're clearing from the old realms. And one message that I just wanted to say came through me is, I feel one of the biggest programs that we have to honor is allowing individuals to let go and transition, because there's this old program of like, those that are here, we want to hold on to them. We want to hold on to them. We want to prevent them, because if they go, we're losing something. Or it's like a shame that even if we help people transition, and I felt that energy being transformed, because with my father and with my grandmother, some may find this very, very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But we were giving her the permission to say, walk toward the light.
Yeah.
If you see loved ones, allow that energy to bring you, because it's time. You are ready. Giving that gentle permission with love, with grace, is one of the biggest gifts we can give to spirits, because what I've recognized is sometimes when there's beings that are so close, but they don't have the strength or power or energy to move because they're so stuck in the density of it all, bring that love.
They're just scared to go through.
Or go, like my dad, after the show, he was scared. After all these years that he's like, I'm ready to walk out of my body. I'm ready to leave. He was scared. But we held his hands in tears and said, it's okay to go. It's okay to, and give that permission. And by giving that permission is the biggest gift that not only we give to the individual, but we break that program that they have to be here. We have to hold them. There's no way that they can leave us. It's going to hurt, because we're allowing that ascension in the highest level that we can provide love to them. And I thought that's another old programming that we're dismantling, because to help someone cross may sound almost like sadistic. It's like, why would you want someone when you want to have them here as long as possible? But to shine that love and shine that light and be there for them is priceless. It's words can't describe even that. So thank you for bringing that into the fullness of the collective, because I feel a lot of it, which we see as death, is the death of the old system, the death of the patriarch, the death of all the energies that are now being dismantled.
But what's being targeted right now, right? There's so much fear for, oh my God, the older ones, the children are gonna die because we gotta vaccinate them. Da, da, da. So there's this energetic that is pulling, feeding of this vulnerability. So of course we can see right through it, just like most of you can see right through it. You're like, you shake your head, like, okay, let's just hold the light here. And of course we see our older ones buying into that program, because they're part of that program that launched, when the tell lie vision came, so they can, they can see from the lens of the lies, right? The programs and conditions. So we get to see all of this, and how can we really we accept where they are, but also keep bringing the positivity and help them just maybe see a different perspective and possibility, so they don't get just narrowed into here and be so pulled on, unfortunately.
With all this that's going on, we're so curious, how are you guys doing? In all this that's happening, through all that's moving through, what are you noticing in your fields? Do you have any questions for us, or just what you're witnessing in this moment? Because I know we're all spread out in different regions, different states, different countries, but what are you noticing now? Because we recognize that these energies are only vamping up, and it's always beautiful when we can hold that sacred space, hold that
and it's
support,
going to get a bit more darker,
and hold the energy, and just allow your expression, your ability to voice, to give your Magdalene voice,
right.
your permission to say what's with it, good, bad, dirty, ugly, whatever it is, to have that freedom, because this is also a platform, a portal to bring forth what is important in your hearts. As we share what's within ours, that we connect through this beautiful level, we're also want to be open in what's happening. And I'll read a little more of what's being brought through. Right? Why you guys write? Happy birthday!
Who's this?
It's L'Oreal's birthday today.
L'Oreal, happy birthday!
Blessings with everyone. Sending out blessings of yourself in the world. Happy solar return. We send you the biggest hug, biggest love. James says, chaos before order, divinity guide, orchestrate, divine perfection time. Exactly. Going with the rhythm and flow of the universe. Demetrius, we got to have you start a show and have because the wisdom that you always share with us, this voice of yours has to come out.
Magdalene, let the Magdalene lead.
L'Oreal, I go through an energetic life review as my own loved ones transition, such as a blessing. We release life, so not accumulating it to the end. Exactly. Could not agree more with that. It's 8:18 here in London. Happy 8:18. Thank you for your love, Tabitha.
Valerie's on.
Beautiful.
Hi, Valerie.
I look forward to the Tuesday night meditations, and such a gift to each and others.
Thank you so much for being there. You, Tabitha, and even Dan has been staying up. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Exactly. It's. I find there's a huge expansion and a huge contraction. Getting used to allowing and flowing with anchoring the light in my life. Beautiful, Valerie.
I spoke about that on the Wednesday live stream on my YouTube channel. Okay. Go to HoniB, you'll see about the Magdalene energy. I really spoke about that expansion contraction.
No worries, Valerie. You can always catch the replay. We've been talking about some really juicy topics today, diving through it all. So
I love you, sister. Thanks for joining. Good to stay in bed.
It's always good for rest, to nourish, and to allow yourself, however it feels, because look what weekend it is. It's a weekend of liberation and freedom in our own spirit.
Let's talk about that. Independence Day in the US, right?
Because part of it is our own freedom, our own liberation, and our own beingness that's allowing it. Not so tied to United States, which I always joke around compared to Europe. We're still little babies. We're still little puppy dogs in the matter of it, still clearing and cleansing. Before we talk, let me just finish real quickly about that. Angela was tired most of the week, but feels like it changed just this morning. Lots of shifts. Keep holding the light and love through it all. Beautiful. I recognize
and Angela, thank you so much for finally coming here. We missed it because I know you were on HoniB for quite a while. Thank you so much for joining us here now. We really appreciate it.
Do you see that, Demetrius? Tabitha gives a second on that. Yes, he needs a show.
Yeah.
And so we thank you for sharing, L'Oreal. We thank you all for being here. And we know that, we don't give a lot of attention to the full moon, the eclipse, and everything that's happening, but we do know it's a heavy packed weekend with 4th of July. We know there's a lot of energies coming up, and we just know that what's been happening through the collective, through the Black Lives Matter movement, through a lot of the injustice, and really what I feel is kind of a paradox, honey, right? Of this 4th of July Independence Day, and then kind of look at, without judging, but looking at the reality of what American history has done in the enslavement, in the sacrifice of our Native Americans, of how we can call independence on ourselves when somehow I feel like the government doesn't give as much to independence because of what it's being shown right now.
I find found it comical. And true independence really is about the divine sovereign state of beingness. And again, I go back to Magdalene presence. This energy of Magdalene this month is very much dedicated to Magdalene. So I'm going to post as much as I can, quotes and stuff. Sometimes when she says things and from others, that crystal slide, you can only be free in your own presence. You're the only one who enslaves yourselves. You're the only one who frees yourself. And as long as you are enslaved to your mind, you will forever be slave. You will only be liberated when you are completely your heart. And that's when the mind is then aligned with your heart, with your soul, with your spirit, with your I am, and you're a liberated being. So it is a journey. That's why we already are in our true essence outside this human form. But when we are on earth, we are in form. We're meeting the limitation of the spirit in this construct. So then we're bringing that here so that that too can expand. So the true nature of the true independence can be revealed. Go back to Revelation again. So there is the book of Revelation for a purpose, because there was a lot that was already revealed and became reverent. So having said all of that, I'm really looking forward to the next 3-4 Wednesdays to be able to have the ones that join on the alchemy short video series, just 15 minutes in and out, and that are focused on the Magdalene frequency. And on Magdalene Feast, Wednesday the 22nd on Zoom, I will have an event 3:30 to probably 5:30 or 6. It's going to be quite a while. We're going to go through a ceremonial experience, and I'll be making that event page. I was planning to do it yesterday, didn't quite work out, so I'll do it this week. And all of you are welcome to register for it. It is a love gift offering event, and that blessing assists Michael and I for this transition.
And I just want to say thank you for, when we speak about independence, that spiritual sovereignty, because I feel that is our biggest gift, is when we can really be in one with the divine that is us already. And I find what has been one of the largest and most impactful ways ever since I met HoniB is really allowing that interconnection, that connection within ourselves first thing in the morning, and really embracing that beautiful energy as it's like a cup of coffee or tea in the morning, and allowing that to be brought forward. What I'm aware of is as many times as we can throughout the day in these times of density, connecting into the light, connecting into the love, and really listening to what's being brought forward. Because we recognize when we're out in nature, when we see the animals, when we're seeing all these magical realms that touch our hearts, they're there speaking to us, declaring our independence, allowing us to really see who we are through their magical, majestical levels. And so for us to just draw awareness that it is always right in front of us, the answer is always here, and just to shift these lens of where we're perceiving and how we're perceiving and what's being broadcast, and always come back to the heart, gives us that beautiful gift of our independence, which we've always had. We've come into this world, and no one can take that away from us, no matter what silly
They can
laws.
do whatever to these vessels.
Right.
They can't touch the soul.
So it's that which we always have to bring back our sovereignty to. And I thank you for sharing that, because it brings, I feel, just a larger gift of where we are right now and how we can shine that and share that with others.
So I actually want to switch the topic real quick. Michael and I could use your help for a moment. So let me bring something that was shown to me in my meditation.
Oh, this is great. This is beautiful. So yes, okay. All of you right now, before you start, let's tune them in real quick into their hearts. Just take a deep breath into your hearts right now. So you can get out of your mind and just take a deep breath into your heart. Just 2 more deep breaths, just anchoring, coming directly into your heart. Allowing yourself to feel the love, your beautiful light, and just to receive from the heart what Honey's going to express. So we can feel your beautiful Magdalene hearts and allowing you to really feel what we're coming for.
So the morning after we received the news that this past week that the application for the home that we really loved was not approved, I was sitting in prayer. I was sitting in meditation, and I was just shedding some tears, and also just being very present. So speaking to my heart team, just sitting there and having a conversation, like, give me something that I can look into. So I'm going to show you something. So this thing has been sitting on the floor right by my altar for the past 2.5 months, because I would have to go. It's a lighter that I put for my book that lights. Yeah. And so
they can see the light.
Yeah, so the light, not yet. So, oh yeah, so here's the light. It goes into the book. So anyway, this had not been working, and the light of it had gone out. So I had to go get a battery, one of these batteries for it. And it's been sitting for 2.5 months. And I was just like, oh, I don't feel like doing it during this closing. So it's just been sitting. So while I was speaking to God, I was just shedding some tears. I just looked down and I saw this. So I just picked it up just like this. Bear with me. And I looked at it. I was like, wow, I haven't done this. Also felt a little disappointment. I was like, I don't want to go to the store, but okay, if I have to go to the store, let me see. And so I turned it around. I'm like, how does this thing even open up? There's some screws here. How does it open up to even put the battery in here? So I was looking at it and I turned this. This is for the light. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's here. So I pulled it. So when I pulled it, I saw this USB drive. Suddenly, I had this spark, jolted spark, which has happened a few times in my life. And I just stared at it, and I literally telepathically heard, open the hidden door. It's in front of you. So yesterday morning, I told the day before, I kept telling Michael, the answer is right here. The answer is right here, because Michael kept pushing me. Why don't you channel the masters? Why don't you channel one of the beings? Why don't you let's get some answers? I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't believe in that, because the answer is right here. It's right here. So as this happened, I look. I'm like, oh my God, the answer is right here. So suddenly my consciousness went. We've been going about getting the house in all ways, looking at Zillow, looking at HotPads, looking at Craigslist, the real estate people, putting our posts out on Facebook, reaching out to the friends as much as we can. And when I opened this, I telepathically understood, comprehended, there is a different way. It's a hidden way. Open the hidden door. That's the way to shine light, and it will shine light on it. And I just stood there. I was like, hidden door. It's right here, but it's not. It's like the battery would have been the traditional way, going to get a battery, coming, put it, insert it. But this is not it. It's like the USB cord. So I was like, maybe it's an app on the phone. Maybe it's this higher conscious way. So I'm putting this out for you guys, because there's a hidden. The door is right here. We just have to open this door. That is the solution for our new space. So I'm opening this up. If you have any inspired, immediate thoughts or energy that comes to you, let us know. That's outside what we've already done. We already know the higher vision. That's not it. We're looking at this temporary phase for the year to move into the place we need to. My son wants to live with us. That's what we're looking for. So we've done everything possible, including setting 3 different altars for the 3 homes. including all the play, including the manifestation, including the writing it, including the crystal grace. You name it, we've done it. The prayers and everything. So we've done higher plane and here. But this, when I pulled it out, that will shine light at it. It's a hidden door that's right here. So we're excited to know. So right away I told Michael, maybe it's an app. Let me see if there's an app that connects renters with owners, or maybe there's another way. So if anything comes to you right away, please do let us know, because we're very open to this. It's actually very exciting to explore this and just to see what this hidden is here.
And we feel that it's not the traditional way, because we've exhausted every single way possible to look at what has been brought forward us. And I know that the way that Honey and I have been honoring our service, it's a very magical, majestical way that has come forward. And so, I'm diving into my meditations this morning. I felt like the doorway is in our heart. It's through our love, but it's also, I feel, a specific way of accessing it. And that's our journey, because obviously, as much as we may want the answer quick, it's that illusion that it's not there, but it's already in front of us.
It's already materials. It's the way of it is very interesting. And it is a higher conscious. So it has to be more like this social media, something that's internet connected, not the traditional way.
Or just the voice, because what was powerful is when we were on the paddleboard several days ago, Honey was like, well,
it was the day before
this. She goes, the answer is right here. And a great blue heron flew directly toward us, went over us, and landed on this beautiful piece of wood not more than 20 feet away. As it landed, then an owl from the opposite direction flew over us on the same path, and then allowed that energy to go forward. The owl went, which was rare for the day, and then a screeching hawk, which has been around for a week, that's been literally screeching every day, was screeching. In 3 days, great blue heron flies over us. Within a second, all of a sudden, an owl, during a day, which is rare, trajects over us the opposite direction, taking the path of the great heron. Then it did that. We heard a hawk go, we're like, wow, the winged ones are here supporting us. So part of what I'm feeling right now is we are supported. It's going to happen. Keep trusting, allowing our vibration to stay high, and just not give into the fear, the frenzy that sometimes builds in the pressure when the days get closer and closer toward our the end of our lease. So it's interesting.
No, we're out of the lease. They gave us an extension for the end of the month, so I'm excited for that. And one of the things that I've been sharing with Michael, I have been like I like to be able to anchor this energy somewhere that's the divine alignment. So we know we got to move to put all the energy in here so that it materializes here, so it's not sitting in this airspace for this long. And so anyway, it's exciting to explore this, but we do look forward to your feedback. If anything comes to you today, tomorrow, we're very open. Please message us, DM us, or email us, whichever. We're very open and excited, and we're looking for that greater connection for sure.
And I feel, Valerie, it's a beautiful idea. I like your beautiful visit to elderly and the assisted living facilities, but can I tell you right now, the assisted facilities, which I've seen with my grandmother, it is a heartache to get into there because it's so, right now with what's happening is it's so restricted, and you have to be in a specific lineage of the family, and then to put on what you can imagine to get into these facilities. Beautiful idea, very creative. Thank you. It's that area, and it's funny, Angela, because we Honey has been actually driving.
Oh my God, I do all the time.
We've been driving and putting it out. We've written it down. We put all of our manifestation. And we also know that divine timing happens exactly. And we're pulled to the...
We're just so you know, we are this close because we're seeing it in its materialization. Like this one, I saw the White House, what it was, it very much matched that, like right here. So it's right here. And I always tell Michael, I was like, Michael, this is exactly the same before I met you. I met these guys, they had the potential, but it wasn't quite yet, and until it finally, arrived. So we know this, nothing new.
And it's beautiful because a dear friend of ours connected us to a amazing realtor. I called her today. She's off the grid, doesn't have a website. She knows people. And what HoniB really spoke about it is through the art of connection in this. A lot of times it's just one person that connects us. And in my dream, which I feel is going to happen, is skipping over this application process, speaking to an owner, bumping into a person, and being like, oh, by the way, I heard you're looking for a place, and then it manifests exactly as it is. So it's interesting, and we've been taking the steps to plan forward, L'Oreal. Like we've been packing, we've been moving things in its way and removing all things out of the way. So we're showing the universe. Yet we know timelines change, and we were very grateful that this place, they shifted the owners to another unit that opened this place up for another month. And with all that's going on, we're just being mindful that we're working through some very slippery situations, what's happening out in society, hoping that the second shutdown, which is maybe looming, cannot be as worse as the first. So in that, we're grateful, and we thank you for whatever comes up. Please let us know. I know it's a journey of allowing, a journey of just seeing what manifests just by trusting Him.
And we get to discover so much in this space within our own selves, and that's why we share this publicly, because it is, it is a journey, and the journey has many ups, many downs, and very important to know what part we are facing in our journey, because when the wisdom speaks, I have so much respect when somebody speaks from what they have directly experienced, not what they have read. Because you can see right through, because there's no weight or depth to the individual when they're just like blurting out like that.
So we're gathering toward the end. We want to thank all of you guys on this beautiful day, this beautiful celebration. So today is July 3rd.
Yes, it is.
Wow. So before we go into the angelic message, what I'd like each and every one of you to do is just put your hands directly over your heart. Take a nice deep breath in. And a nice deep breath out. Let's go ahead and just take 2 more deep breaths in to the heart. And exhale out with the last deep breath in. And exhaling out. And listening to today's angelic message for Friday, July 3rd, day 185, and the message is let go. There's no need to struggle with anything. The solution to any seemingly problem, indeed, everything you desire, flows gracefully. Struggle is based on fear, which sends up jagged energy points that create barriers in the flow, like a river that suddenly has to go over sharp rocks. That's one reason why worries slows down your manifestations. When you let go of your concerns and give them to God, things can smoothly and quickly come to you once again. Today, let go of all issues that make you feel tense. You can do this by writing them down in a list addressed to God and us angels, asking us to help you release them. Your simple willingness to do this brings great benefits. The thought for today, repeating after me. I ask God and the angels.
I ask God and the angels
for help with everything.
For help with everything.
Instead of struggling or worrying, I talk to heaven about my fears.
I
am now willing to release my cares completely.
I am willing to release my cares completely and willingly.
And receive peace.
In
exchange.
It is
It is said, it is so, It is done.
And so be it.
And so be it.
Perfect
message,
timing.
huh? Perfect message.
Perfect timing. And
Beautiful.
let's see what the Ascension Oracle message for us are today. Thank you so much, everyone. Archangel Metatron's clock. We seem to get this one quite a bit too. Number 51. It is an honor to receive this card, for the cloak allows Metatron's energy to be held in your aura. It ensures that your 12 chakras are open and protected from your lower energies. This means that you can link to the 7th dimensional hollow earth and access wisdom from the 4 ascension planets. Walk tall and stand in your power. Wearing this cloak will help you guide others on their ascension path. You are called on to do this. Empower people to see who they are and what they do. Affirmation: I stand in my power and lead others forward.
I stand in my power and lead others forward.
So be it.
So be it.
Whenever I speak of Metatron, I yawn. I like the energy. It's so powerful.
And you were yawning a lot when I was receiving this in the angels.
Yeah, because the minute the angels start coming, like I always yawn to open space. Ascended masters, angels, they can't, like, I start yawning, and just as many of you do, because like as the energies come, it opens up. So I'm like connecting with the frequencies. That's how I know they're here. So it was so nice to catch up with all of you. We had missed you, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you guys for taking your time. Thank you for coming on at any time. There's always the replay. Thank you for all of your suggestions for packing. Thank you, Valerie. It's another good idea, putting some grocery stores or health store bulletin boards if they're still there. Thank you for all the beauty and all the love and light and blessings.
And all your comments. Thank you so much. Maybe journey together. We'll see you all on 7/7 Gateway, 11:30 a.m. sharp. Michael and I as a Sacred Divine Union, Stellar and John as a Sacred Divine Union with Alan Steinfeld. I mean, he's huge in the US. And, of course, Valerie. So I'm so excited for that. We're so honored. We'll also post that on the Magdalene Sacred Divine Hearts page. And join us Tuesday night for our group meditation. And please invite others. The more we are, the better we can hone in this frequency. And for those of you tune in, as I will have the Magdalene Feast ceremony online Zoom. You can email me ascensionalchemists@gmail.com. I will post the event page this weekend. So much love and have a beautiful day. So much love to all of you, and may you continue walk with your love. As really, we can say this, but the action of love is a whole different way.
Have a beautiful weekend. Love you all.
Bye-bye.